NFL Super Wild Card Weekend. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on NFL Betting Blitz. I'm Gino Bucola alongside Eric from ETOF 21 Sports. 2 Saturday games today. We'll have games this week on Saturday, Sunday, and then on Monday night. The Monday night game has been moved from Los Angeles to Arizona. So before we get into anything, I just want to send some love and some prayers out to everyone who's been dealing with some of the fires out here, Eric. I'm in Southern California. My high school is shut down and has closed down for the next week. I probably know 10 plus people who have lost their entire homes, burned completely down. A lot of the area that I grew up when I was in high school from like 14 to 18, or places where I was going, restaurants, friends' houses, they're just gone. You drive by the street in Altadena and it's all wiped out and you have to start all over. So I'm going to share a bunch of stuff on my social medias. If anyone can donate a little like money or anything at all, because they lost everything, clothes, phone chargers, computers, iPads, every single thing in your house is gone.
That's
just unbelievable. So
I can't.
Where do you start? Right?
And
like, where do you start? It's
just, when I was first moved out here, like I'm in the Chicagoland area. When I first moved out here, my apartment building caught on fire. And like, you're just out there and you're watching and like, you feel so
helpless, right?
Helpless. Like there's literally nothing you can do. And you just are there and you're hoping that everything is okay. I was one of the lucky people that none of my stuff was damaged. There's just a little smoke damage, so it wasn't that bad. But a couple people there, everything they had was ruined. So I can't even imagine it. And this is 10 times worse because it's your house, it's all your valuables, like everything you've worked for in your life.
The memories, right? Yeah, the stuff that you can't even put a price on. The pictures and the stuff from your childhood. So really, really sad stuff. Hopefully we can help distract some of you for a few minutes, entertain you, and maybe lead you in the right direction for some of you who are going to play the football games today. So keep in mind that Monday game is moved to Arizona. We'll talk about the 3 Sunday games and the Monday game tomorrow. We will have a Sunday edition of NFL Betting Blitz at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. So that's tomorrow. Business to handle today. 2 games, Eric, and it all starts with the Chargers at the Texans. This will be the 8th time since 2011 that the Texans are playing the first Saturday game. So they're a home dog here. They were just 1-5 against teams that made the playoffs. No Diggs, no Tank Dell. Key for them today. Can they get a little something out of Deontay Johnson? And I know that's something that's going to be in one of your plays. They started 5-1, but just 5-6 since. They are making the playoffs for the 2nd straight year. They beat the Browns last year when they hosted a game. And they're 5-2 the last 7 games that they've hosted on Wild Card Weekend. For the Texans, I think today they'll be successful because of their defense. And if they are successful, it will be because of their defense. They've held opposing quarterbacks to a QBR of 54.7. That's bottom 7 in the league. 49 sacks is tied for 4th in the league. With Anderson and with Hunter, they're going to put pressure on you. Both of them have double-digit sacks this year, and they also have a good secondary. So they're a really well-balanced defense, finishing 6th in EPA allowed per play and in defensive success rate. Bottom 10 in O-line stats. That's kind of why they've struggled offensively this year, Eric. Their offensive line hasn't been as good. They haven't been able to really open up the playbook. So you have a little bit less from your offensive line, and some of your key pieces are hurt. Well, that's why their offense doesn't look the same way it looked last year. But on the Chargers side, I think they're a little overvalued. And when you look at who they beat, they were 8-1 against teams with a 500 record or less, 3-5 against teams that were over 500, and 2-5 against teams with 10 wins. Both of those wins came against the Broncos. Even last week, they had to kick field goals on 3 different possessions in the first half, and they're actually down by a point at halftime to the Raiders. A lot of that's because they don't have a bunch of weapons offensively. It's Ladd McConkey, the rookie, who they're peppering. It's Quentin Johnson. He had 13 catches last week, but he has a thigh injury, and he's questionable. So I wonder with this team, when the game tightens up, they've only been averaging 10.3 second half points. That ranks 19th in the league. I think it's a good scheme, good matchup for the home dog here, Eric. I was able to lock in the Texans at +3 and sprinkle some money line on the Texans as well.
Yeah, I'm on the Texans +3 as well. We have the Chargers road fatigue. The Chargers are playing their third straight road game. Teams on a third straight road game have a 48% ATS record, 39% straight up. And we just look at the playoffs, that dips down to 29% straight up. We have to look at the run game versus the Texans defense. The Chargers run the ball at the 10th highest rate in the league, and their offense depends on the run to set up the play action, which they rate 4th in the league doing. However, the Texans are number 1 DVOA defending the run, top 10 defending play action passing. This making this is extremely stylistic matchup tough for the Chargers offensive strategy. Texans secondary strength. Houston ranks 10th DVOA defending wide receiver ones. This means they should be able to neutralize Ladd McConkey and the other Chargers wide receivers. I'm really not worried about. So we look since week 10, the Chargers defense has been declining, 18th EPA, showing a decline in performance, and NFL teams figuring out the Minter scheme. Looking at Stroud splits, better at home than away. Trends favor the home dog here. Road favorites in the wild card round are 45% ATS. Also, Pickens banged up. If he's hurt, that's going to be a key piece of the Chargers offensive line. I think there's value in the Texans buying low, selling high. A lot of social media hype around the Chargers, with some even saying the Broncos have a better chance of winning than the Texans do.
They're getting way too buzzy, too buzzy, the Chargers.
This is the same Chargers team that only has 1 win over a playoff team this season. So, look, I'm going to take the Texans here plus the 3. I also did 2 Deontay Johnson props. I did him over 14.5 yards receiving, and he's 11-1 to have an anytime touchdown. Chargers weakness against wide receivers too. They rank 30th DVOA defending him. I really think this is where Johnson is going to line up. When we look at the injuries, he's going to be the wide receiver 1. I think the Chargers are going to focus on Mixon and Collins, look to take those 2 guys away. He finally is healthy. He's had a rough season, but he did have the second most snaps last week. He did look better finding a role in the office. I expect him to be involved in the game plan. Johnson's season, it's been inconsistent, but he's still one of the better route runners in the league. This could be the game we see the version of Johnson that we saw earlier in the season with the Panthers. And when we look at the favorable matchup, 11-1 for anytime touchdown seems too much.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And you feel like with a team that only played pick 1 series really last week with their offense had been struggling, but the Texans played 1 series. They drove the ball really well. They went on an 11-play, 73-yard drive. Stroud went 6 for 6. He hit Collins with a touchdown. I think they've been working on some stuff for Johnson. It just, they need another weapon. And you've had a little bit of time. You've had, your week of practice and your week to set up the game plan. There has to be a couple things, I think, in there for Johnson. Eric, before we move on from this game, let's talk about some first-time touchdown bets, because we're going to do that for all of the games that we go through. Who is your first-time TD bet for this game?
I went chalky. I just went Mixon plus 475.
Yeah.
I know it's insanely chalky, but when you look at what he does inside the 10 and inside the 20, it's going to be him. So I'm going to go Mixon plus 475.
So my first-time TD is going to be, I'm trying to think. Couldn't find where it was the priced on here, but yeah, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to go with McConkey. I think I'm going to go with McConkey Chargers, because I think they're just so heavily focused on McConkey on the Charger side. They have to. I would probably go McConkey Collins as my 2 if I were looking at 2 to play. Cool Kev checks in.
Cool
Nice to
Kev,
hear from
Cool
Kev. Thanks so much, Cool Kev. Nice to hear from you. Says, Gino, what's up? Been out of the NBA. Look, how are your boys looking? The Lakers have had to cancel a couple games recently, which is, all the games in LA, the Lakers and Clippers have canceled. There's a logjam, Eric. You and I will start talking a little more NBA once the NFL season is done. But there's a real logjam in the West from like the 3 spot all the way down to like the 10, 11, just like it's been the last couple of years. Like teams are separated by 2 or 3 games. I think the trade for the Lakers was good, getting a DFS guy, because he's a guy that can play and close out the games, close out playoff games on the court for you. And we saw too many times that D'Angelo couldn't be a guy closing out games for you in playoffs and in big moments. I think the Lakers are still probably one move away. They still need one more like ball handler-ish guy, maybe a backup big. So I think there's still a move to be made for them. And what's nice is they kept their first round pick, so they can still use that. But yeah, we'll talk more NBA in the weeks ahead. Eric, any other thoughts on this game before we move along to game 2?
No.
Let's get into the Steelers at the Ravens. So this will be the 3rd time these 2 teams play this year. First time Steelers upset the Ravens. Second time Ravens handled the Steelers pretty easily. But overall, Lamar has not had great success against the Steelers. And the Steelers are 3-1 against the Ravens in the playoffs. But this will be the first time ever that 2 teams enter the playoffs and play each other where one of them is on a 4-game winning streak and the other's on a 4-game losing streak. That's the case for Pittsburgh. They just haven't been playing well lately. The defense has kind of struggled. They haven't hit 20 points in 6 of their last 8. They haven't hit more than 17. Offensive rankings are all in like the mid-20s in yards per play, EPA, success rate. I think a real key for them has been Pickens, Eric. Just him being banged up and him not being around as much. Because when he's playing and he's out there, their offense is so much better. There is a massive difference in EPA per dropback when he's on the field versus when he's off. It's kind of like what we were just talking about with the Chargers. It's because the Steelers don't have a lot of offensive weapons. They don't have 3 or 4 really good wide receivers that you can throw the ball to. If Pickens isn't out there and Pickens isn't pretty healthy, there's just a bunch of like number 3, number 4 kind of wide receivers.
Yeah. I know for me, I took the Steelers. This is just way too big of a number. In terms of what you're talking about, I think it's going to be a Freiermuth game. I think we're going to see Warren coming out of the backfield. I think they're going to look to grime up the game with a lot of Najee Harris run games. But when we look at the Steelers plus 10, divisional dogs in the playoffs, cover at 63% of the time in the wild card round, 61.5% of the time in general. This trend obviously supports the Steelers. Tomlin, we look at him as a dog 63% of the time against the number when we combine both the regular season and the playoffs. Tomlin is 13-3-2 against Harbaugh as a dog in the regular season. This is the first time they have met in the postseason. However, looks like TJ Watt will be available for this game, which is critical. He was banged up last week, had a 0 stat line. This is the first time in his career he's literally had a 0 across the boards. I expect a huge bounce back game for them. Zay Flowers is out for the Ravens. Flowers, who leads the Ravens in first rate, isn't playing. Big blow for Lamar Jackson. Jackson has struggled historically against the Steelers defense. And this season alone, he's averaging just 207 yards per game passing. Without Flowers, this could make life difficult for him to move the ball in the air. And when you look at him, he struggled running the ball against the Steelers defense, averaging 6 yards less per carry than he does against the rest of the league. Steelers defense has been good against Henry. Now, look, I know he did just have a huge game where he ran over for 160 yards, but that was the first game that he went over 76 yards, and he only is averaging 81.8 yards per game against the Steelers overall. Lamar struggles as a favorite. He has only covered being favored of 3 or more 45% of the time. In the matchups between the Steelers and Ravens, the underdog has covered 73% of the time. Ravens have committed 132 penalties this season, second most in the league. This
for a team that's favored by big margin, right?
This could be big for a team not being able to finish, allowing a team to extend a drive. We saw last night in the college football game. How did Texas get back in the game? Some critical Ohio State penalties allowed their drives to stall out or the Longhorns' drive to extend. We have a low point total of 45, a high value of 10. Steelers, I think they're just going to be able to run the ball. They're going to look to
slow it down.
The Ravens' time of possession with Flowers out. I think this team is going to struggle. The Ravens moving the ball. I expect Pickens to have a rough game. the trends, everything's telling me to back the Steelers. So I did them +10. And then my player prop is over 19.5 yards receiving for Jaylen Warren. Ravens struggle defending running backs in the passing game. They've given up the 4th most receiving yards to opposing running backs this season, allowing an average of 39.6 yards per game to running backs. This creates a favorable matchup for Warren. Warren's success against the Ravens, he's put up 4 receptions for 25 and 5 for 44 the 2 games. This, like 2 games, he's gone over this mark. Since Wilson has taken over, he's averaging 3.8 targets per game. When we look at this season, 5th on the team in targets, 3rd receptions, 4th in yards. He's gone over this 2 of his last 3 games. I think you mentioned it, with the lack of weapons that the Steelers have, he's going to be a huge part of this game. So give me Warren over 19.5 receiving yards.
Sports Facts likes the Ravens. We'll play them today. And Eric, what about a first-time TD for this game? Who do you have?
Oh, I went Freiermuth, 18-1.
Nice. I can't, and I wanted to find a Fields. I can't find a Fields because I would love Fields to get in at the goal line, right? And that would be a fun one to get. So if I find that somewhere, I'll sprinkle a little bit on, but I can't find Fields on the board anywhere. I'm going to go Bateman, Eric, and that's one that I'm going to lean on in my Boom Fantasy as well for some of the reasons that you're talking about. Without Zay Flowers, Bateman kind of becomes the unofficial number 1. I know they still have Andrews and they're going to lean on their tight ends a little bit more, but there's going to be more wide receiver looks for Bateman. He's a guy who hasn't really been able to take that kind of step forward that they had hoped a few years ago and kind of blossom into the number 1, but he's going to get a few more looks here. And I could see them trying to make sure on a first drive that they get him comfortable, that they get him a couple easy receptions. So that way he's very engaged in the rest of the game. I'm going to go Bateman. I see Bateman for first time tutty at +700.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and you're on Freiermuth 1,800. That's a big one. That's a very good price on Freiermuth. Yeah. At 10, I could get there. If you're looking at that, under 10, I may not want to go run and bet it. I'd still lean to the Pittsburgh side at anything over 7.5. Eric, any other thoughts you have on this game?
Hopefully we get a good one.
Third time
spoiled with some good college football games. It's been a great, when we look back at it, playoff game on Thursday. This is both college and NFL. Playoff game Thursday, playoff game Friday. 2 today, 3 tomorrow, and 1 Monday. That's 5 days in a row of playoff football. It doesn't get much better than that. We've been lucky enough to have 2 games. Hopefully, we get some good games today. And thoughts and prayers to everyone living in California with what's going on there.
Thank you so much, buddy. So Santa Anita canceled their racing for this weekend. Oaklawn Park canceled their racing for the weekend. Turfway Park canceled their racing for the weekend. There'll be a lot of focus on Gulfstream. If you're looking for a play at Gulfstream, check out the 5th race, the number 1, Love, Mommy Love. Actually gave that one out on Eric's show the other day. And then at the 10th race, the number 2, Cozy Heiress. Maybe a couple horses that could help you out. Everyone is going to have Ravens, Bills, and Eagles teased in money line. Which one of those doesn't cover? I'm saying Ravens. For you and me, it would be Ravens or Eagles, right? Those would be the teams that we're going the opposite side of. Like you and I think both feel like the Bills might even be able to cover their bigger number there. So yeah, for me, I would say if there was one of the 3 teams that wouldn't cover, I would lean towards the Ravens, maybe just because it's a big number. And same thing with the Eagles, maybe going on the Packers side. Let's make some money, says Ravens defense first touchdown. Okay, so let's see. Ravens D, first time tutty, that is +3,000. Very, very nice price. I like that. So yeah, anyone that has any first time tutties, share them around. Andrews for I Hate the Lakers. And you know what? Tampa Bay Downs today, races 4 and 5, some really good stakes races. There's the Pasco and there's the Gasparilla in race number 4, which is the Pasco. I like Naughty Rascal a little bit there. So how about a Tampa Bay Downs play for you too? I previewed those races over on drf.com if you need some help on the YouTube channel. So let's make some money. I Hate the Lakers, Sports Facts, and Cool Kev. Thank you all for checking in with us. We appreciate hearing from you. We wish you all the best of luck. Eric and I will be back tomorrow, Sunday, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. We'll get you all set up for the 3 Sunday games and the 1 Monday night football game. Eric, good luck to you, buddy. Good luck to everyone out there. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on NFL Betting Blitz.